Memories of Tuesdays with Morrie, a blog post written and narrated by Robert Fairhead from the Tall and True writers' website. I post a book covers and first sentences homage series on Instagram as Tall and True Web, featuring fiction and non-fiction from my bookcase. Sharing the posts has brought back fond memories of dusty books I haven't read in years. And I recently shared a favourite tearjerker, Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. I read Tuesdays with Morrie while being Mr. Mom for my then toddler son. At the time, I had a home-based software consultancy, and the plan was to catch up on project work during his morning and afternoon naps. However, my son's morning naps stopped happening, and he wouldn't settle for his afternoon nap unless I pushed him around the block in his pram, and then I couldn't get the pram back in the house without waking him. Eventually, I gave up trying to squeeze in work in the afternoons and instead pushed my sleeping son to a local park and enjoyed an hour or so of reading. And it was during this period I discovered Tuesdays with Morrie. This post is not the place for a detailed review of the book. Save to say, Albom learns his old college professor, Morrie Schwartz, is dying from ALS, and Albom recounts the Tuesdays he spent visiting and philosophising with Morrie, commenting in the opening paragraph, "The last class of my old professor's life took place once a week in his house, by a window in the study, where he could watch a small hibiscus plant shed its pink leaves. The class met on Tuesdays. It began after breakfast. The subject was the meaning of life. It was taught from experience." I enjoyed reading Albom's tale of his last class with Morrie, but as I drew nearer to the ends of the book, I wanted to avoid its inevitable conclusion. So when I got to the final chapters, I put the book aside and started reading another one instead. Over the next few months, I read several books on my afternoons in the park with my son asleep in his pram. And then one afternoon, I decided it was time to brave Tuesdays with Morrie again. I had been right to hold off reading about the death of Albom's old professor and coach, but sitting on the park bench that day, it felt good to finish the book and shed tears over Morrie's passing. And when I closed the book cover, I was ready to move on and push my sleeping son home. Or so I thought, because when I took down Tuesdays with Morrie from my bookcase and dusted it off for the Instagram post, I reread the final chapters and the tears started flowing again. Perhaps this time it was a mixture of sadness at Albom's account and nostalgia at the memory of reading books in a park with my son sleeping in his pram. Those years have long gone. My son's now a strapping 16-year-old and towers over his dad. And though I still enjoy reading, nowadays it's me that needs an afternoon nap. Hi, I'm Robert Fairhead from Tall and True Short Reads and the Tall and True writers' website. I wrote the Memories of Tuesdays with Morrie blog post in August 2018, after sharing the book on my book covers and first sentences homage series on Instagram. A year earlier, I had written another blog post in response to a question posted by Penguin Books on Facebook. What is the last book that made you cry? The books could evoke tears of joy or sadness, and three sprung to mind, all sad tearjerkers. Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom, Marley and Me by John Grogan, The Book Thief by Marcus Cusack. I've read several other tearjerkers since then. What struck me about Tuesdays with Morrie and inspired me to write this blog post was how rereading the final chapters set the tears flowing again. It was like I was back in the park with my son in his pram. And yet, 14 years had passed since I'd read Tuesdays with Morrie, and my then toddler son had grown into a strapping 16-year-old. So was it Albom's account of his last days with Morrie that had me crying again? Or fond memories of early fatherhood, reading the book in the park while my son slept in his pram? From my Morrie-like life experience of 4 more years of being a dad and seeing my son grow into an adult, I can safely say it was both. Thanks for listening to Memories of Tuesdays with Morrie. You can read all my blog posts, short stories and other writing at tallandtrue.com. You can also buy my short story collections from the Amazon Kindle and Kobo online bookstores. Links are available in the show notes. The next episode of Tall and True Short Reads will be in your podcast feed shortly. In the meantime, don't forget to check your feed or the podcast website, tallandtrueshortreads.com, for earlier episodes from seasons 1 and 2. And follow or subscribe to the podcast and rate and review it via your favourite app. Doing so helps me share my writing and memories with other listeners. Please remember, you can support this podcast by making a regular or one-off donation via the Acast supporter page. You'll find a link in the show notes. And finally, please tell your family and friends about Tall and True Short Reads and the Tall and True Writers website.